All right. Hi, Dusty. This is Samantha here. And hi, Sheena. Um, Nice to meet you all the way from Alaska. I don't know if you knew that I am also from Alaska. I'm from Fairbanks, so hello. Um, nice to see you guys here. We did have a couple more people registered, so hopefully they will be jumping on the webinar at some point, but we're happy to have both of you here. My name is Samantha Forsco. I am the Preservation Specialist here at the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts in Philadelphia, and we are doing the Regional Heritage Stewardship Program serving Alabama, Mississippi, and the Panhandle of Florida, providing preservation services. And this webinar today will be a little bit more focused on that area of the world. So hopefully you can apply to Alaska as you see fit, Sheena. But I'm joined today by two of my colleagues, and I'm going to pass the microphone off to them. If you guys have any questions, since it's just the two of us for now, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and Amy and Lee will hopefully get to them as they can. I think we'll have time at the end, if they don't, to circle back around. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic off to Lee.
Hi, well, welcome. My name is Lee Price. I'm the Director of Development here at the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts, and I'll be one of the two presenters of today's Spreading the Word webinar. I'm here with Amy Hewer, who is our Manager of Marketing and Engagement at the Conservation Center. She'll be presenting the second half of the webinar, as she's much more familiar with the technical details and actual day-to-day work of practicing the art of spreading the word. I'll be handling the first half with more of a general overview, a theoretical foundation for thinking about promotion. This webinar, Samantha already mentioned this, webinar is technically speaking for the collecting institutions of Alabama, Mississippi, and the Florida Panhandle through our Regional Heritage Stewardship Program. And I have made some effort to draw several examples from institutions in that region to have it applicable, but just by its nature, the material that we're presenting is as applicable for a collecting institution in the far north, say Alaska, as it is for a museum or historic house in the deep south. Ultimately, we all get the same space to work with. Say if you're working on Facebook, we all have the same acreage, the same square footage that we're working with, whether we're the New York Public Library or a volunteer-run historical society. And we all have essentially the same tools available. We're all now capable of creating really fascinating online communities that bring together people with common interests from all over the world. Regarding questions as we go, Samantha mentioned this, but I did definitely want to reiterate it, that both Amy and I have time at the end to respond to questions. We can trade back and forth on answering questions according to who wants to take the challenge. But feel free to use the chat box as we go along on the side of your screen, either posing questions to other attendees, which is fine. Discussions on the side are encouraged, networking, or to Amy and me as well, and we may be able to respond as we go along. Webinars are a form of social media, so in a webinar like this about promotion and social media, being social is naturally encouraged. All nonprofit collecting institutions, whether they be museums, libraries, archives, historic sites, or historical societies, have their required mission statements. And these statements almost invariably cover the activities of what we have here, preserving and sharing. If you have collection items that are under your care, you have a responsibility, generally as a nonprofit or a quasi-governmental institution, to both preserve and to share them. As an example, here's a representative mission statement that I've stolen from the Goodwood Museum and Gardens in Tallahassee, Florida, and here are the two key words: preserve and share. That's the business that we're in. Now, most of the regional heritage stewardship programs that the Conservation Center will be leading are focused more on the preservation function. That's where our real expertise is here. But today's subject ventures a little outside of our main field, as our focus is on the sharing part. In nonprofit speak, where, why use a two-syllable word when a four-syllable will do, frequently called disseminating. Or in the words of Thomas Hoving, who was the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art back in the 1960s and 70s, and a person who was fairly well skilled in the art of promotion. The only way, he said, we're going to get this museum embedded in the public imagination and public affection is to talk, 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 and proclaim, proclaim. Now, this isn't what dissemination is always about. There is, on one side of the continuum, there is passive dissemination. That's where you put up the finding aid on your website and researchers can, well, they can always make an appointment to come and see the object. And on the other side of the continuum, you have proactive dissemination. And it's that proactive sharing that Hoving was talking about here, and what Amy and I are actively promoting today. We're talking about active sharing, the art of intentional and focused promotion. There are several reasons why you might want to take this route. Spreading the word is good, but going in, you should be asking yourself, why are you spreading this particular word? Why invest your time on this particular Instagram or Facebook post or newsletter article that, if you've done one or two, you know going in that it's going to take longer than you anticipate to research, edit, and publish? These things take time. Are you doing this to increase awareness, to let researchers know that you have a certain item in your collection or items in your collections, or to increase attendance, maybe highlighting the story of a must-see object in a current exhibition, or to increase goodwill, keeping your organization in the public eye and consciousness by posting, fun stuff that's easily shared, or maybe as a driver to increase funding with a link to the current campaign. It could be one of the above, it could be all of the above. But you should know going in, and the time you spend on promotion should always be intentional. On a personal note, I volunteered as a tour guide at several museums where the guides, gather around at lunch around the table, and we get to discussing, well, one of the main subjects that we always get around to discussing is why the place isn't better known. And people are always saying something like, well, it's such a gem. Why doesn't everyone know about this place? And well, the simple, unfortunate reason is the absence of an intentional strategy directing the promotion efforts. They're either not doing that talking enough, and that usually is really the case, or maybe in some cases they're talking in the wrong places or to the wrong audiences. When you talk, you're talking the stories that add a larger context to your collections. Say if a local family donated the collection of a World War I veteran, and you share that maybe online, by putting up an online exhibition, putting personal belongings into the international context of the story of World War I. But by adding that context, you're adding value, and not just to the photographs or letters or other ephemera, but adding value to your entire collection, even adding value to your institution's reputation. Of course, the value was there all along. It's inherent in those old photos and letters, but that value needs you to tease it out and talk it up so new audiences will realize the importance of what you've got. The Gutenberg Bibles, the first major printed book, perhaps the most famous rare book in the world and widely acclaimed as one of the most beautiful. They were printed back in the mid-1450s by Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz, at that time a free city of the Holy Roman Empire. Well, from there, printing caught on, revolutionized the world, changing forever how we disseminate information, how we spread the word. But, and this is what really interests me about this, I've presented this at several workshops. It's a subject that fascinates me. The Gutenberg Bible itself got lost in the shuffle. And this is almost an exact analogy, just as you probably don't have a screen capture of your institution's first website. So for more than 300 years following the publication of the Gutenberg Bible, nobody knew anything about the Gutenberg Bible. That's more than half the time that the Gutenberg Bible has been in existence. The phrase Gutenberg Bible did not even exist. The books existed in various libraries, personal collections, but they were just one more book on the shelf of a wealthy, probably royal collector, and maybe libraries of monasteries or universities. It wasn't until 1763, and that's, more than 300 years after they were printed, in a library in Paris, that Guillaume Francois de Bure identified and described a Gutenberg Bible, proclaiming it. See, it's that talking, proclaiming it, talking it up as the first printed book. And then they were suddenly more than just another book on the shelf. Now it had value. De Bure's publications pointed to these Bibles, declared their importance. The books had existed for centuries at this point, but value needed to be added. Now, this isn't just a one-time story for 250 years ago. An example happened fairly recently. For over 100 years, 12 Years a Slave, a book by Solomon Northup, was hidden in plain sight from its publication in 1853, when it was very briefly popular, and then just gets shelved until the 1960s, when two Louisiana historians, Sue Aiken and Joseph Logsdon, started proclaiming, promoting, talking the importance, the value of the book non-stop for 50 years, all the way to 2013, when there was a movie made from it that, as you probably know, won an Oscar for Best Picture. And in his acceptance speech, the director acknowledged Sue Aiken, saying she gave her life's work to preserving Solomon's book. So that's our business, preserving and sharing that work that goes naturally hand in hand. 12 Years a Slave, just another book on a shelf, until Sue Aiken and Joseph Logsdon started spreading the word, telling audiences why it was important, why it should be taught in schools, maybe even, hey, it might make a good movie. So we're looking now at the tools of the promotion trade. First, the old-fashioned print media, those newspapers, magazines, and journals, the fruits of Gutenberg's 15th century movable type, along with the 20th century's innovative technology of radio and television, the old paradigm of public relations through press release, still valid today, although Most press releases are sent by email today. And even print media generally covers both the physical newspaper that you can hold in your hands and the digital version. And that's what I've got up here as an example. I just pulled up the digital example, the newspaper article available online. Last of all, for the old ways, there's the internal self-publishing work of the institution, creating its own newsletters, annual reports, and other print publications, frequently delivered by a real human being, a postal carrier, to your core community. The old way of doing things, still valuable. So we enter into the 21st century, which really is a radically different world. Even though emails have technically been around for about 50 years at this point, everything really starts coming together just a mere 20 years ago. In 1995, we see the first websites, and around that same time, systems being put in place to manage those email systems because they really weren't effective until that point. Message boards get introduced around 1999, really encouraging the actual social media where you can have conversations with that are taking place in a community rather than just two people exchanging emails. Not really that long ago at all. And then the big one comes along. Facebook arrives in 2004, closely followed by YouTube in 2005, just 12 years ago. When we look back in 50 years, what we're doing now will look like the primitive pioneer days of this technology. And this is our, on the side that I've got here, this is our modern suite of promotion and marketing tools, emails and variations like e-newsletters, with an example on the side here from us, the Conservation Center, one of our new e-newsletters. It's an email-friendly mini newsletter with lots of links. We've got Facebook, blogs, videos, podcasts, Instagram, to name just a few of the huge menu of apps and opportunities available for you to tell your story to the world. Storytelling is the glue that binds together these communities. A social media community being individuals brought together, really from all over the world, who all buy into a shared narrative. If it's your community on your Facebook page, comprising all the people who've, in quotes, liked you, or who, in quotes, follow you, these are the people who consciously include your organization and the work it does within their individual worldviews. So in more contemporary parlance here, this is your tribe. You create tribes, you join tribes, and the best way to communicate with your tribe is through story. So where should you prioritize your efforts? I used to have, when I was doing promotion workshops a couple of years ago, I used to have website at the top. But in discussion with Amy, I'm bowing to her opinion on this, putting Facebook at #1 now. Ideally, you'll be using at a minimum the top 3 listed here, with Facebook and emails promoting your work and your website functioning as your local, regional, national. Seriously, I think it must be looked at as your international presence, and you should always think of it that way. It's easy with most websites to include a blog that you can use for storytelling, sometimes offered through a news feed. Videos and podcasts are fantastic, but they can be a little bit hard to pull off too. If anything, videos may be a bit easier to make look professional, especially if you keep them very short. Podcasts are great and people love them, but they're singularly hard to pull off at a professional sounding level. The ear being very sensitive, it can hear low quality, and the brain being judgmental, quick to judge. Here at the center, we use the basics: Facebook, emails, and e-newsletters, and the website. And then from the rest, we pick and choose. We generally work with Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and have a couple of videos. Not too many, but a couple of videos when we can find a way of producing a decent one. In a nutshell, at the most basic level, this is how we do it here. A Facebook post, I have it at the top here, and our monthly emailed e-newsletter, which we just call e-news, down on the lower corner, announce that we have a story to share, providing, short, punchy teasers that take you to our storytelling medium. Our really, it's our main storytelling medium. We call it Focus. We try. Amy puts out around one every 2 months. Around one. She's not. Around once every 2 months. Available on our blog or newsfeed. Each step along the path, as you move from, say, getting the e-newsletter about it to clicking on the link, each step along the path, you get a longer, fuller, richer story, bringing people in, so drawing them in who want to know more. Our website blog offers the full story and links to a PDF in case you want to print it. Share stories about the objects in your exhibitions. Share about new discoveries being made from your collections. If you have a researcher in, try and find out what they're looking into, and try and keep those connections, always making new connections, always networking. Share about objects that connect with current news stories, and always celebrate your anniversaries. Now, I'm not talking about your organization's anniversary here. I mean, they're good to celebrate. We're celebrating our 40th right now at the Conservation Center, so we do celebrate them. But when you have the collections, what you really should be looking at are all the anniversaries that you can leverage, that are embedded within your collection. The 50-year, the 100-year, the 200-year anniversaries. If you have Martin Luther's 95 Theses in your collection, this is the year to celebrate your object's 500th anniversary. You know all the different ways of celebrating the anniversary. Say if nobody's going to have Martin Luther's 95 Theses in their collection, but if you did, you could be celebrating the date when it was nailed to the door, which would be the 500 one that we're on right now. You could have a number of years ago celebrated Martin Luther's birthday, 500th anniversary of that. Coming up in the future would be Martin Luther's death day. All these different anniversaries that go around one central object. So you know the anniversary, the birth date of the author, death date of the author, any major events closely linked to your collection item or items. For instance, if you have World War I collection items, say, here's how the University of Alabama Libraries goes about celebrating that. They have a detailed online exhibition. I personally love online exhibitions. I like going to the real, going out to the site for an exhibition. But the online exhibitions can stay up for so much longer and just be available for ages. Just drawing people usually slowly to your site as they do Google searches and the like, and discovering what you have for the first time. So here with the University of Alabama Libraries, they have their World War I Centennial Reflections that place their collection items, like I was saying, into an international context. Material donated from a local family takes the spotlight here, pulls them, out of storage, puts them in the spotlight, hopefully bringing this material to the attention of researchers, not just locally, but all over the world, perhaps previously, authors previously unaware that material like this was available at the University of Alabama. This is the shingle held out to the world to say what you have. The approach says to the world, we have an important World War I collection. This is a good example of textbook spreading the word. The last of my slides before we move on to Amy. Just a few tips. Go deeper into your collections. That's where you learn the anniversaries. You have them ready to pounce upon when they approach. Know the stories, love the stories, be ready to share them and share them passionately, because enthusiasm is contagious. Piggyback on current events. Think of your collection items in the context of I like to look at them in the context of the pop culture world. Connections with upcoming movies, particularly ones that reference real history. Right now, there's an upcoming Darkest Hour about Churchill during the early years of World War II. In January, there's something called The Current War coming out about the Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, George Westinghouse brawl over AC/DC current. Be thinking with things like this to be alert to potential connection with items in your collections, where you can be promoting through Facebook, through online exhibits, through newsletters, these items in your collection, so you can bring them to the attention of the world. Same goes with books, TV shows, music, any events that are fairly predictable, and a lot of events in this world are fairly predictable. Say the Winter Olympics, they're going to happen next year. Looking ahead to 2024, yeah, there's going to be another eclipse. These things really are predictable, so you can have your astronomy material or whatever all ready to take advantage of it. Just always be thinking ahead of what those predictable events are. Join conversations. Social media is all about being social. So join the conversations at other sites with related material. Be part of those communities so you can draw people from those communities over into your community, so they can be liking your Facebook page, being followers of your Instagram account as well. Be very complimentary of others. Be respectful when you're on other sites and operating within other communities, and share freely about the great items in your collections. See how it all works together. Amy's going to be going more deeply into this next one, tapping into related communities. It's one of the best ways to grow your Facebook likes and your Instagram followers. And last of all, and I hope this will be obvious, make promotion a priority at your institution. It's part of your mission and very worth the investment of your time. I'm going to be passing this on to Amy now, and she'll be going in deeper.
Okay, hello everybody. So Lee's given you some frameworks for making your marketing decisions. And as he said, now I'm going to show you some case examples from organizations who are getting the word out effectively. Each one of the following bullet points corresponds to a couple of slides with case examples. So we'll look at examples of institutions sharing their collections, tapping into their communities, tapping into broader communities, joining conversations, tracking their initiatives with hashtags, and cross-posting their stories for maximum impact. Our first example of an institution effectively sharing its collection is the American Antiquarian Society. Based in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Society is an independent research library which has collections ranging from books to newspapers to graphic art material through 1876. So what we're looking at right now is a screenshot of the Society's Instagram feed. As you can see at the top of the screen, the Society has a staggering 32,000 Instagram followers. The vast majority of the posts on this account feature an item from the Society's collections, whether it's an artifact or a manuscript, with a brief description of the item. For example, this post from September shows an example of a shaped book. The caption tells us that shaped books were popular in the mid-19th century, and the Society has chosen an interesting example. It's one of a young child who goes on a religious pilgrimage. It's visually striking and it's interesting. Here's another post from the Antiquarian Society. If you tilt your head back and kind of squint at this, you'll see that the cursive script forms a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. And the caption goes on to say that it's a lithograph from 1865, and the cursive words form the Emancipation Proclamation in German. This is another example of a great collections post. The object is dated, identified, and a bit of its background is given. Something to note about this photo, and most of the images we'll see on Instagram in particular, is that the photography is relatively simple. The great thing about taking photos of your collections, as opposed to trying to take compelling images of events or things like that, is that collections are relatively easy to photograph. You should be able to photograph your objects using equipment as basic as a smartphone. Another great example of an institution publicizing its collection is the Archives and Special Collections of Thomas Jefferson University, which is a health sciences university and medical school here in Philadelphia. The archives contain books, documents, photographs, and other items relating to the history of the almost 200-year-old institution and to scientific history more broadly. The team at their archives post thoughtful and varied images of their collections. So, for example, here is an image of a flag with a red cross on it. The post tells followers the history of the symbolism of the Red Cross, and it's a very striking image. And here is a silly post. This is a 1573 manuscript that suffered some editing, I guess we can call it. Along with discussing the skirts, the post mentions the condition of the manuscript, saying that the paper hasn't been too damaged by the addition of the red pigment. You may have noticed that the posts we already looked at used hashtags. If used effectively and judiciously, hashtags are a fantastic way to make connections and tap into new communities, audiences, and followers. So now we'll look at some examples of that. First, we'll look at examples of institutions tapping into their own community. Libraries connecting with libraries, archives connecting with archives, and museums connecting with museums. These types of connections can strengthen your network and get your institution on the radar of other followers. Our first example has been used by a few of the posts we've looked at so far, including this one. So if an Instagram user were to tap or click on the hyperlink that says Libraries of Instagram right there, they would be taken to this screen. This shows all the Instagram posts that include hashtag Libraries of Instagram. Here we see an intersection of posts, some from book enthusiasts, many from institutions. The post in the middle, for instance, is from the New York Public Library. And that post is a great example of another one of these community-specific hashtags. This one is called Bookface Friday. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty self-explanatory. Institutions fill out the covers of books with images of people or things. It's a fun way to connect to other institutions and get people to your account. Another way to connect with your community is to get into what are called challenges, which are really just invitations to post relevant things from your collections. For example, this past August, many institutions posted images using the hashtag Boats in the Library. They posted a variety of images, whether they were illustrations of boats, actual captain's logs, books related to boats, or in the example in the top right corner of our screen right now, images of boats literally in the library. Challenges or themed posts like these are a great way to join in on a larger conversation. Other institutions can see and comment on your posts. Here's an example that uses both hashtag boats in the library and hashtag libraries of Instagram. And it's a pretty fabulous image. The library company is based in Philadelphia and has collections of rare books, ephemera, prints, and photographs from the 17th through 19th centuries. They posted an image of the floating Church of the Redeemer, which, according to the caption, was a floating Episcopal church built in 1849. You can also tap into even broader communities using hashtags. On Tuesdays, many institutions and even individuals post images of typesetting using the hashtag #TypeTuesday. A search for that tag on Instagram yields top results in a variety of fields. So we'll just go across the screen right now. So this one is from an international brand design agency. This one is from the Philadelphia Public Library's Rare Books Department. This one is from an Australian creative agency. This one is from the American Antiquarian Society, who we already discussed earlier today. This is from the Brigham Young University Idaho store. So it's like a campus store for the university. This is from an international graphic design education firm. This is from an international graphic design magazine. This post is from an individual, but she is a graphic designer and a letterpress printer. And this last one is from the Denver Public Library's Instagram that has images from their digital collections of Western history and genealogy. Using a hashtag like #TypeTuesday gets your institution and your collections in front of a key demographic. It's audiences who, by virtue of searching via these hashtags, already have an interest in your material. Users who find your page through themed hashtags are more likely to peruse the rest of your posts. And weekly posts like this are great because they're likely to get more traffic. If lots of institutions are using a hashtag on one day, users are more likely to explore it. And of course, there's no obligation to participate every week, but you can certainly try. Hashtags can help you tap into broader communities in this example here. It is from the Newberry Library, which is in Chicago and whose collections include rare books, maps, music, manuscripts, and, as this image shows, some postcards. Their team chose to post this image on a Saturday to take advantage of hashtag Catterday. Institutions and people all over post images of cats on Saturdays. In this post, the Newberry is capitalizing on that trend and tapping into the thousands of people who peruse that hashtag every week, including Samantha. Here's another example. The Wagner Free Institute of Science here in Philly is committed to providing free science education, and along with their roster of educational programming, they have collections. They took Shark Week as an advantage to post some of their shark-related imagery, utilizing the Instagram function that allows you to post multiple images at once, which I will click through so you can see the other sharks. That's another one, and that's another one. So far, the examples we've discussed have all been on Instagram. But before there was Instagram, there was Twitter, and while other social media platforms are seeing increased use, Twitter remains a very effective way to carry out conversations with the public, and hashtags are useful here too. September 13th of this year was International Ask a Curator Day. Institutions big and small invited constituents to tweet, Instagram, and post their questions for curators to Facebook. Many institutions first posted a casual picture of the curator in her or his working environment. The British Library posted this picture of their curator of North American published collections. She answered questions like the following. A user wrote, and this is at the bottom of your screen here, the user whose name is Mermaiden wrote, "Do you have anything connected to Laura Ingalls Wilder in the collection? I'd love to see one of her original manuscripts." And then at the top of the screen here, we have the curator's reply, which she responded and tweeted back saying, "We have lots of her books, including the first editions, sadly none of her manuscripts." But then she included an image of some material that they do have. So here we're seeing the British Library using hashtag Ask a Curator as an opportunity to discuss their collection. the Guggenheim Museum introduced some of its curators with a video. They then answered questions about their profession, like this one, where a curator told an anecdote about working with Yoko Ono. And they also used it as an opportunity to promote their exhibition Art and China, which when I put this presentation together last week was way less controversial than it is now. But the point is, you can use these opportunities to promote your exhibitions. Another fun Ask a Curator thread this year came from the Center for Meteorite Studies at Arizona State University. They posted this tweet, which says, pick a number between 1 and 1200 and we'll reply with what meteorite it is from our collection. Many people wrote in with suggested numbers. You can see here towards the bottom of the slide, user Gemma Davidson suggested 1066. At the top of the slide is the Center for Meteorite Studies response. A short description of the meteorite with a link. There's the link. And if users click the link, they're taken to this page, which has more information about the meteorite itself. What they're doing here is very smart because they're encouraging viewers to find the stories behind their collections objects, giving followers the reins to turn collections items from numbers to unique, interesting objects. And through this hashtag, the Center for Meteorite Studies wound up talking with other institutions. So the Amon Carter Museum, which is a museum of American art based in Fort Worth, Texas, which has about 21,000 Twitter followers, joined in on the conversation that the Meteorite Center was having. Another great use of hashtags comes from the Ohio History Connection, which uses hashtag OTD, which stands for On This Day, to highlight events and collections items related to Ohio history, like this one. On August 3rd, they posted this image with the caption, on this day in 1936, Ohio and Jesse Owens won gold in the 100-meter sprint at the Berlin Olympics. Here's another example from the History Connection. On April 29th, they wrote, on this day in 1865, the funeral train for President Lincoln arrived in Columbus. And along with that tweet, they have a link right there, which, if clicked, takes the user to the collections page for the paragraph, for the photograph, sorry. And this is kind of what the top of the page looks like. And then if you scroll down, there's more information on it. You can also use hashtags to track your own initiatives. I do this here at CCAHA. When I have an Instagram post that features a unique conservation-related tool, I'll add the hashtag CCAHA tools. If users search for or click on that hashtag, they'll see a curated feed of conservation tool-related images from CCAHA. The Library Company of Philadelphia, which we already looked at a little bit, does a similar thing. They use the hashtag LCP prints when they post prints from their collections, as they do here in this post about musk cologne. And these institution-specific hashtags don't have to be solely used by the institution. Many places use hashtags to track their exhibits. A recent example of this comes from the New York Historical Society and their Eloise at the Museum exhibit. Visitors and museum staff alike use the hashtag Eloise at NYHS to post about their experiences across multiple platforms, including Twitter. So here's an example of a tweet using the hashtag. And here's another one. And they also use the hashtag on Instagram. Several of the examples we've looked at so far have featured links to other digital marketing streams. The Ohio History Connection had a link to the collections page of the image, the Center for Meteorite Studies linked out to external information, and so on. It's always a good idea to make sure you're cross-posting your content when you can. If you read a blog article, you should post it to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram it if you can. Here's an example of the American Antiquarian Society doing just that on Instagram. In the spirit of back-to-school time, they wrote a blog post describing some of the items from their collections that could be used in school. They Instagrammed one of the images with a description encouraging visitors to check out the blog post. They also posted the blog post to their Facebook account. And here is the blog itself. And if you scroll down, you can see these are some of the examples of the collections items that they're saying you could use in school. And here's our final case example. The Rhode Island School of Design Museum of Art publicized their participation in Ask a Curator with this Facebook post encouraging followers to head over to Twitter and Instagram to follow along. Posting your content on all of your platforms ensures that your followers, wherever they are, know what you're up to. So we are very happy to take any questions you might have now. You are also always welcome to email either of us. Our email addresses are there. Looks like we're... Oh, good. Well, I'm glad it's been helpful. It was fun to put together. Does anybody have any questions? Looks like we're... Okay, great. Well, it looks like we don't have any. It was great to talk with you guys today. I'm going to pass the mic back to Samantha now. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, we do have our October in-person workshops happening. One at the Goodwood Museum, which you heard a little bit about. We actually are doing a fun site tour there. So that will be at the end of October, and the other one will be in Hernando, Mississippi. It'll be Halloween themed, will be one of the days. So I hope to see you guys there. Please feel free to jump on the program calendar to find out more about that in-person workshops. And we'll also be posting our next webinars there as well. So thanks again. And would it be a potential to have a PowerPoint of the a copy of the PowerPoint? Okay, I got yeses from Lee and Amy for that, so I'll email that out to you guys following this. But just as a reminder, it's also being recorded, so we'll post the whole thing on the website as well. So you will have that in addition to the hard copy. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, and have a great rest of your week.